Hi everyone, welcome to the Littleton Rubenhart Library project discussion. We have Bill O'Brien here with Johnson Roberts to discuss the design.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to walk you through a quick slideshow, give you a little bit of an outline on the building and where we're at in the overall process. Before I get going, what I think, you know what, I'll save this for, I think it's right here in this first slide. This is where we are right now in the overall scheme of designing a potential new building. The various steps are outlined here, and where we are right now is construction grant application. We have a grant application into the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners, the MBLC, and they're reviewing that application right now. The last little bit that they need from your town is a vote to authorize the application, and that's a no-cost vote. It basically is just authorizing the library to complete this application and put with the design that's in it right now, so that the application can be processed and we can find out exactly how much money is available from the Board of Library Commissioners, from you all. And so that would be the next step, the grant approval by the Board of Library Commissioners. Then you'd need to obtain funding from your in-town approval to make up your portion of it, between fundraising, I imagine, and voting the additional money. And then, importantly, the next phase that we would start once we got that rolling would be to revise this schematic design. And so the point that I'm making here is that we're going to show you some designs right now, but there's nothing fixed. The design is still in flux, and we have a revised schematic design, and then there's another design phase called the design development, where we work out all things like the mechanical systems, the electrical systems, what kind of heat and air conditioning and so forth we're going to have inside the building. So I can't answer questions like that right now, but we've made some assumptions, and so I can answer questions about that generally. Then obviously there's the construction documents, bidding, and then the construction, and then the new library would open. So there's a variety of steps that we've already gone through, and there's a number more to go. So this isn't any kind of a final decision. Things are still in flux. So where we start, when my firm is hired, Johnson Roberts, is we're given a document, and this is a summary of that document called the Building Program, which was done by another firm. That's right, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And that firm did that work where they worked with Sam and the rest of the staff and the public to come up with each of the rooms, each of the spaces that are going to occur inside the library, and then what each of those spaces should hold in order to accommodate the needs of the library in the community. And then all those things are totaled up. Square footages are added to each of those. And what this is I don't expect you to read all this, but it's a summary chart of each of the spaces, the ones that you have in your existing building now. Some of them may be new, and then how big those spaces are. So we're kind of given this as a working document. Gives us an idea about how big the building really needs to be. So we take that written document and we turn that into this graphic right here. So that is a colored graphic that represents each of the spaces inside the building that's written in the program, and then what is in each of those spaces. So there's a number of book stacks you can see up in these green bars across the top, and there's some seating in there, and there's some non-print materials in this orange one right here, and this is the children's department in the yellow. And you can see there's a graphic for a desk and some computers and some tables and chairs. Just to make sure that everything fits, we go through this. And then we take this graphic and we rearrange all these spaces into a variety of different options for floor plans. We went through a series of options where we looked at the existing building. We looked at the Morgan property. We actually looked at a scheme on the tennis courts recently. And then the one that we ended up with is, and this is your existing school building that is now used for town offices and Council on Aging, and the library is down here. There's a play field there where the slope drops off in the back. And so we are proposing, just off the back of the parking lot, a two-story building that sits on that slope where the woods are now. So because it's a two-story building and the grade drops off, we actually walk into the upper floor of the building, and then the lower floor is down lower, kind of at a level where the ball field is off to the left that you can see there. Some additional parking in here. I got another slide. I think this is a little bit easier to see. So we get some additional parking that's in front of the library here. We've actually got some additional space where we could do even more parking across in front of the library, so that we could have a double-loaded parking space if we needed to for future growth. And then we have an entrance that basically comes in at this point. So this is the way you come in between the tennis courts and the Council on Aging and wrap around. So it's very similar to the way it is right now. And we've created this new lot here. And when you come in right here, you'll be able to see the front door of the building. And then we've got a walking path that wraps around the side and gets you down to a patio, which is off the lower level at the rear. So this is a blow-up of that plan, some handicap parking spaces, entrance that comes in here. This is that dirt road that goes off and connects into the paved way that goes off to the schools in the back. So again, patio down off at the lower level. And this is that walkway that wraps down and goes down to the lower level, and then there's also a set of stairs that can get you down there as well. So this is the upper floor. This is the front door where you come into the building. Just inside the front door, there's a set of stairs that will take you down to the lower level. Lower level has meeting spaces, children's department. There's some other storage spaces down there, some staff spaces and so forth. That's all happens down at the lower level, so that's a set of stairs there. And there's the elevator, take you down there as well. When you first walk in, you're kind of looking at the circulation desk.
Can you tell us what those risers will be used for?
Sure. Right next to the stairs is a set of risers, and that is basically some kind of larger steps that form like a seating, almost like in an outdoor auditorium. And you can sit on those stairs to read or kind of hang out and chat with your friends, because this is the kind of more noisy part of the library before we get deeper in what's a little quieter. Also down at the bottom of this set of stairs on the wall, and I'll point that out on the lower floor plan, this plan's for a screen. There could be a large TV screen there. It could do projections. You could actually use that to do a talk or have a book group or something like that to make it a little bit more formal of a use of the space. Circulation desk sits basically at the front of the plan where you can keep an eye on the door and see who's going where and what's happening. Across in front right here, we've got new materials, non-print materials. Your AV collection happens in here. So this is the kind of grab-and-go collection. If you're coming in to try to pick up the newest bestseller and so forth, you can grab that right here, check it out, and go right back out. Staff spaces are across here. You can take materials in. Night book drop is right here. There's a self-checkout here and a copy machine where it's convenient. We've got a janitor's closet and a couple of toilets, the director's office and staff offices. This is the local history room, and right down at the end here is the teens department. And that's all glass across there, so you can kind of keep an eye on what's going on in the teens. And they can kind of have their own space, and there's a set of double doors that you can leave open so you can hear what's going on. Or if it's getting too loud, you can close it down. But from the circulation desk, you can keep an eye on what they're doing in there. So here, in the center part in the back, kind of looking out the windows towards the woods in the back and the patio below, is the reference department. Periodicals are in the back. Next to some windows, you can go in and have a nice read. We've got some quiet study rooms here that can be reserved, and those are glassed in, so you can, again, keep an eye on what's going on in there. And we've got intermingled in there with some reading spaces, and then we've got book stacks, really, for the fiction and nonfiction collection, for the most part, kind of running along in there. So there's a sliding door here that closes down, and that locks off the rest of the library in the evening, so that if you wanted to have a nighttime meeting in the evening, you can shut that down. You could still get to the stairs and the elevator, and that would bring you downstairs to the lobby, and that would get you to the large meeting room or to the conference room. At night, still have egress doors, exits going out. You lock down the children's department, and the rest of the library would be secure for a nighttime meeting. And so you could actually have the doors open and to the patio for a nighttime meeting. A beautiful night like this, you could go outside for an intermission or something like that, and then come back into the building while the rest of the building is secured. Again, here are those risers that come down from the main door, and then there's a screen spot right there where you could have somebody stand, like me doing a presentation, or if somebody was doing a talk, or you had an author that was going to come out and kind of sign books or something, they could do that there. Certainly could do it in the meeting room as well, but just trying to make things as flexible as possible. If you go into the children's department, there's a children's desk right next to the children's office, and then the children's tables and chairs and computers and so forth happen here, where they can kind of look out the window to the patio. And they've got a story and craft room that happens in the back, where they can do glue crafts and hear a story and so forth. We've got the book stacks along the wall here that look out towards the ball field. They've got their own storage department, storage room, because we know that the children's department has lots of stuff that they like to store. Got some staff spaces back in here and a staff toilet. There's a small room here for the Friends book sale, which you could open directly to the public and have them come in and take a look around. Or you could kind of move them out into this lower lobby space and have a little book sale there if you wanted to. This is where the elevator comes down. General storage, mechanical spaces. These are the two large toilets in the building. And this meeting room here has a meeting room storage for tables and chairs and so forth, and a little kitchenette. You can actually get into the kitchenette from the outside, so if somebody was bringing food in and you didn't want to disturb the meeting that was going on, you can get into the kitchenette directly from the hallway. So the cost, in order to complete the grant application from the Board of Library Commissioners, they asked us to put together a total project cost, and that includes an estimate of the construction cost. It also includes the project costs, like fees to hire folks like me and your own as project manager. In addition to that, there's things like the cost of the furnishings and the equipment that you need inside the building, the cost of the computers, the cost of your telephone system. They want everything in there so that it's a soup to nuts. And then they want escalation, and what that means is that they understand that you're probably not going to build this thing right away, and so they've asked us to put in escalation. And so we've escalated the number up just over $13.1 million to $2020. So there's about 3 years of escalation on there. So take all that thing, and then you put an escalation on there, and I think we're carrying that at about 5% per year. So that's the total grant amount. And basically, trying to make that number as big as we can, because the grant is based on that overall number. And so they allow you to put some things in there like the cost of the land, for example. And even though you don't actually have to pay for the cost of the land, they will reimburse you for a portion of the cost of the land. So Sam went out and got a couple of estimates on the cost of the land. They say go get 3 and then use the middle one, and that's what we've done. And you'll get reimbursed for that. So there's a couple of costs that you have in there that they will reimburse you for that you don't really need to pay for. So it's actually a good deal. And so we've estimated the grant amount to be just under $6 million of that 13.1, and that leaves the balance in 2020 dollars of about $7.2 million. But if you take out the things that you don't really need to pay for example, the cost of the land and so forth, that's what this adjusted number is. So it's just over $7 million is the actual cost for you all from the town. Questions on that? I know that's confusing. And lastly, we have a couple of views of what the building might look like. Again, we're in schematic design, and so we needed to put something together to put into the grant application. And so we have this scheme, which represents what's in the grant application, and then we also heard after the grant application went in January that there were some folks that were wondering if we could do something maybe a little bit more traditional. So after I show you this one, I have another scheme that's a little bit more traditional. It doesn't have the shed roofs on it and so forth. But that's the entrance. This is kind of what you'd see from the middle of the parking lot, kind of looking out of the back of Town Hall. So there's the entrance right there. And then we have that, just inside there is the stair and the risers that go down. And so there's a skylight that sits over that to bring some natural light down into the lower level. It's a small reading room that kind of pokes out along the side. And then basically there's book stacks in there on both of these floors looking out towards the ball field. Along on this end, you'll recall, is the staff spaces, local history, we have those shortened windows, and then when it gets glassy again down in the end, that's the teens department. It's kind of pulling back a little bit, looking back at that space, and then those are where the book stacks are. Each of these windows lines up with one of the aisles in the book stack, so we can get light shining down. It's kind of a very traditional library design element. And this is kind of swinging around the other end, so the entrance is on the side, so we're kind of standing just off the grass here at the end of the new parking lot. And so that's the teens department, local history. There's the set of stairs that go down to the little patio down below, and you can see the path that runs around, kind of a garden path that runs around to the lower level. So this is on that path. You can see the slope coming down. That's the teens department up in there. You can see the quiet study rooms poking out above the top right there, and that's the children's department in there. All that nice natural light looking out over that patio.
Excuse me, is the large meeting room, is there access to the outside? Can you cut that off with,
That door right there
yeah?
comes directly out of that large meeting room.
I just-
And you could also walk into the hall, walk down the hallway into this lower lobby here and come out the doors onto the patio as well. Want me to go back to the plan and show that to you?
Can you lock it off? So
Yes.
we often have meetings that are
Yep.
not during library time.
So there's that meeting room right there, and there's that single door that I showed you that comes out. And then you can also come out of the meeting room and out into this lobby and out into the patio. So it's two different ways out.
And also, Phil, through the main entrance, potentially, where everything's locked off, and come downstairs.
That's right, if you come in the main door, down these stairs or down the elevator, you can come down the hallway and get to this meeting room, or go directly outside. So this last view, there's not going to be a lot of people that are actually going to, you'd have to be in the trees. So this is this is the bird's view, kind of looking back at the building down at the patio. And again, you can see the young adults department is in there. Right along in this area is the new books and AV collection. Right in the center of the building right there, and that joint is where the circulation desk is. And then we've got quiet studies, reference beyond, and the periodicals department is there. Down in the lower level is the children's department is in there, pretty much in that whole wing. And then this is that lower lobby, conference room down at the end, large meeting room door. Okay, and then we have an optional, more traditional looking, so this is basically the same plan, and this is, so we didn't completely change the design, this is really just a different set of clothes on the same building. So the entrance is still here, that's still the stack wings, and we still have those stack windows in there, we still have that space that sticks out in the end with this, a small reading space, but again, a little bit more traditional kind of cornicing and so forth, the gables on the masonry, red brick that matches the town hall. And instead of a large clerestory skylight with a shed roof on it, we've got a smaller skylight that I don't think you'll really see except for a view like this, which is maybe up on the second floor at town hall, looking down at the building. And this is what it would look like from the rear. But again, this is just one other possible solution, and there are others that we would do as well. Again, entrance from the parking lot. And so the design isn't really critical at this point. It really just represents what we've shown basically to the Board of Library Commissioners as part of the grant process, so that they understand that we've checked the feasibility of the design and we make sure that it functions. This is why they basically want to see a schematic design at this point.
Phil, would you comment as to the ADA compliance and energy efficiency of this building?
Okay, ADA compliance, first of all, everything in the building will comply with the ADA, which is the federal law for access in buildings, and Massachusetts actually has their own law, which is part of the building code. The federal law, you're obligated to comply with now. The law in Massachusetts, you have to comply with when you get a building permit. And so this, because it's a new building or even in a renovation, everything new that you do would have to comply with both of those. So everything in the building will be accessible. Staff spaces and public spaces everywhere that you go. There'll be the furnishings, for example. We need to make sure that at least 5% of the furnishings are accessible in the building, and that typically means doing something special with the tables to make sure that a wheelchair can get under them. We typically just make them all accessible. So you could go to any table, any computer, anywhere in the building and pull the chair out of the way, and it will be accessible with your wheelchair. It just makes sense. All the toilets are accessible. Everything's accessible. That's kind of the simple answer. Everything on site, that path that runs down around to the side is wheelchair accessible, and it meets the code for that. The stairs will be, even though it sounds counterintuitive, but there are folks that obviously walk with leg braces or a cane, and they may want to take the stairs, and so stairs need to comply as well, and those will. And then the second part of that question was about
Energy efficiency.
the energy efficiency. We are pursuing LEED certification for this building because there's some additional money available from the Board of Library Commissioners, and so that is the plan. LEED is a program run by the United States Green Building Council, and the idea of that program is to try to take some of these LEED greener strategies and move them more into the mainstream to make them more affordable. I am a LEED accredited professional, and I can tell you that when I first took the class 10, 15 years ago, it's been a while now, we used to tell people you should count on about 10% additional costs on the building in order to make it LEED. And it's nowhere near that anymore. It's somewhere between 3 and 5% of additional costs that it takes to make your building LEED. And it's actually more difficult to get LEED certification than it used to be. So the program is working because the prices are coming down on these things. And the benefit to you all is that you pay a little bit extra money in the construction cost, and these systems pay for themselves very quickly. They're so energy efficient that the money that you save in the energy costs pay for these systems pretty quickly. We used to look at things like paybacks, 12, 15, 17 years. Now we're looking at payback periods of 5, 6, 7 years, so they're really affordable. And when you add to that the fact that the Board of Library Commissioners will give you an additional chunk of money, it's a minimum of $100,000, it's almost a no-brainer. So the building will be super efficient.
Any other questions for Phil?
I'm not sure if who the question is for, but what kind of competition is there for the MBLC grants, and how good is the chances that we're actually going to get it?
So there are 33 libraries currently going for the grant.
Mm-hmm.
So the way they set it up is that everyone will usually get something, right? Usually.
Well, the way that it has worked out in the past, I've been doing it for a long time. This year we put in our 45th application, so we've been doing it for a number of years. Prior to this grant round, we had 35 of them. So typically what happens is that they will have a little bit of money available, and everybody that gets into the program, they will rank them. In this case, it'll be from 1 to 33. Occasionally, there'll be somebody that doesn't get one, and they're invited to resubmit. They're missing something, their application is incomplete, and so they're asked to resubmit.
They get like 6 months to fix it, and then they get put at the bottom.
And then they get put at the bottom of the list. So everybody will get ranked from number 1 to 33. They've got enough money right now, they're guessing, that they could probably pay for the first 8, maybe the first 9, but that really depends on who's ranked up at the front. If a bunch of smaller, less expensive buildings are ranked up at the front, they may go a little further. And then typically what will happen is that they will look to the legislature to vote additional funds the following years. And so every year, if a small chunk of money comes up from the legislature, $50 million, $100 million, in the overall scheme of things, that sounds like a lot of dough, but of course, for the state, it's not a lot of dough. And then they will pick off the next couple of, as soon as the money becomes available, they'll send letters out. So if you're in that first group, you'll get a letter shortly thereafter the announcement comes out in July, and they'll say, you're in that first group.
And then everybody else gets put on a waiting list.
And the people that are on the waiting list may get funded next year, they may get funded the following year, which is why we have those 3 years of escalation in there. It's kind of like the average is the way it works out. 5 or 6 years, typically everybody is.
Right, so
done.
we can, it's given, that we can just understand that everybody who makes a successful application gets it.
Yes, provided that they can come up with their portion of the money
Right.
locally, right?
Right.
So for example, right now, we are in construction of the Hopkinton Public Library at the start of the marathon. They were in the last grant round. They're pretty much the last community to go under that last grant round. We're in construction now with them. So they were kind of low on the list, and then they had to jump through some hoops to get the thing voted, and they got it voted. But there was nobody waiting. So the way the system works, if you're number 12, and then they have enough money for 9, then you're third on the list, right? Fourth on the list, did I do that right? Third on the list. So the next year, if they come up with $100 million, you'll get a call, and then you go to vote. And if you don't raise your money locally, then you're out. And they will go to the next person, they'll go to number 13. And you have to apply the next time they have a grant, 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now, whenever that is, if ever. Because this, unlike the school program, this isn't guaranteed. The Board of Library Commissioners will continue to have grant rounds as long as they have money. When the money dries up, they'll stop it. Did I answer your question?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
You can wave if I start telling you more than you need to know.
Any other questions?
How big the meeting room is going to be, the one that you talked about?
You remember the square footage offhand?
Like number of people?
I think it fits up to 100 or 150 people. I'm not sure about the size.
Yeah, it looks like,
It's accredited for a certain amount.
yeah, every space in the building is going to be, how many people you can have in that space is going to be driven, the maximum is going to be driven by the building code, and that is going to be enforced by the fire department. So the maximum number of people that you can have in this room, according to the building code, is probably a couple hundred, standing room only. But I would think that you probably won't have that many people in there. It's designed for like 150 people. So it's probably a little bit bigger than twice as big as this room.
Are there restrooms near the kids section?
Yeah, the kids department has their own toilet so that they don't have to leave.
Okay.
The family toilet with changing tables and the whole bit, right, so that they don't have to, nobody, you got a couple of kids, you don't want to take the whole troop out to go use the bathroom, right? And you don't want to send them alone, so.
Oh, I got grandchildren someday, you never know.
Would you comment how big the children's area is?
Offhand, I don't remember the number offhand. I could probably look it up for you. You've got.
Is it on, I can't see it, the font is too small, but you might have brought your glasses.
It could be.
That's from your presentation in January.
Okay, I'm just gonna have to look it up.
There really is like
Who wrote
three
this?
fonts.
It's so small.
I don't know why it's so small.
You got it all on one page.
That's, yeah. that
That's
was the-
probably why it's
that was
so
the
small.
secret. Okay.
How
The
large is the
children's-
children's room?
Oh,
Okay, so that breaks down into a couple of different pieces.
I think
There's-
it was around 3,000.
It's about 3,000 in kind of rough terms. This is broken down into pieces, which is this large space, and then there's the story room, there's the children's office, the toilet, and the storage room. You put them all together, and it comes out to about
But wasn't-
32,000.
Don't
Was it
you
one of your first slides?
give square footage on your slides?
That was an old,
That might not be completely up to date, that comparison.
That one?
Yeah, see, it's got them broken out in this one, too. The children's
Oh.
office is a separate space. Children's services, it's broken down, 3320. And then the program room is 420. So this is what did we figure? It was almost 1,000 square feet bigger than your existing children's program, isn't that right?
Yeah.
yeah, because our existing one is 1,152, 328 for our program room, so yeah, it's about twice.
Okay.
Is there just one large meeting room, or are there smaller spaces for smaller groups to meet?
There are smaller spaces. We've tried to design the building to be as flexible as possible. And so there, I'm trying to get back to the plans here. So on this floor, there is the local history room, and we have the local history materials at this point set up in shelving units that have doors on them so you can secure them. So if you wanted to have this used as a meeting room, you wanted to let a bunch of kids run around in there or something, and you were concerned about those materials, you can lock them up. And you can still have a meeting in there. And this comfortable room in there for 20 people. That's pretty easy. These quiet study spaces will each hold 4 to 6 people pretty easily. If you want to have a small meeting, and there's 4 of those there. Downstairs, there's the large meeting room, and there's also the conference room here. So that conference room is set up for a larger group, and you could set that up kind of seminar style, or as a conference kind of round table where we have it set. And then you could certainly use the children's program room. We typically will have children's-sized furniture in there, but it's adjustable for the big kids and small kids. So we'll usually have kind of like those aluminum canes, right? You press a little button, you can adjust the size of the legs, but you don't want to sit in there, right? Because typically the furniture is too small.
And I think another thing that we've talked about is having the large meeting room have a little more flexibility by having one of those panels that can pull to break the room into two spots. That's come up a couple of
That has
times
come up,
as to accommodate maybe two groups of, 55, 60, 75, rather than one big group of 150 or so.
Yeah. We'll have to change the plan a little bit, but again, because this plan is flexible, that's great.
Right.
And the Board of Library Commissioners actually, you're not married to this plan either. Once you get your grant, you can change it.
We
I mean, they
cannot put
encourage it.
in a hot tub or a movie theater.
No movie theaters.
No polo arenas indoors. Anything that sounds not really library is probably, that's what you wanted, Larry, was the hot tub, and now you're leaving? So anything that sounds kind of like it's not library related truly is speculation and hyperbole. We'll have a screen, but such does not make a movie theater. And we'll have sinks, but such does not make a hot tub.
On the stair, I forget what you call the sloping stairs.
These risers,
Yes,
yeah.
now does that have some way of, say, when you're having a discussion there or a program there, how often does the noise then go up through the various floors? Is it cut off?
Yes, no, it isn't cut off. No, this is a casual space, and if there's something happening in that space that's going to make some noise, it will broadcast into the rest of the building a little bit more. We will have some things up on the upper floor here, built into the ceiling and so forth, to help control that sound, to keep it from bouncing on much deeper into the building, but it is definitely a space that is unlike the closed meeting rooms. It's a little bit more lively and active, and so you need to be careful about the kind of thing that you organize there, obviously. But the idea is that it's more lively. And when you come into the building, something exciting is happening. And spaces like this are starting to pop up on things like college campuses and so forth, because what's happening is that the people that are using the spaces are coming up with ideas about how they want to use a space like that, and giving them the flexibility to be able to do that, and they can go check in with Sam, hey, this is what I'd like to do. Oh, we hadn't thought of that before. That'd be great. Or you could use this space. Or if you think it's going to be loud, maybe you'd be better off in the meeting room.
That
But it's
space
flexible.
almost reminds me of like a small lecture room in a college where everything is stepped up.
Right.
And the professor is down low. That's almost what that reminds me of.
Mhm.
Is there any library around here that has that?
No, not that I can think of. There's one in New York City. It's a public building in New York City. It's, but no, you'll be the first that I know of.
Okay, I am not aware of that either. So what inspired you to incorporate that into this plan?
There's two things, really. You have a two-story building, and one of the important things we think that when you come into any of our library buildings, we want the layout of the building to be self-explanatory. Nobody should have to come to this desk and say, "Where's the children's department?" So we're trying to make visual connections that are dramatic so that people understand the layout of the building. Also, when you approach this building, if you approach it straight on, or if you park over here and you haven't been here before and you make your way over, it looks like a one-story building. And so we're trying to make it clear that there's more to see. You don't want to be in a position to have to say, "Oh, downstairs," and somebody say, "There's a downstairs." It should be obvious when they come in. And so we're trying to take advantage of that. We're also trying to bring, we've got a lot of glass over on this two-story section in the back, but this portion of the building, down on the lower level, doesn't have that, right? Because the soil comes up to the, so we're trying to get some natural light down into that, so it's the size of that hole. And we're also, as you go down those stairs, we think that the views that you're going to see looking out these windows, and then as you pass down through the floor, the views down below, we think are going to connect, so we think it'll be dramatic walking down that stair. And so having something there that draws people down and lets them know that something else is there, I think is going to be important. I mean, when you look down there, you'll be able to see the entrance to Children's when you first come in the building.
And is there a heating and cooling benefit from being embedded, the lower floor against the ground?
Yeah, the heat loss calculations on a wall that's bedded into the ground are a lot better than they are over here, where the temperature inside the building on the average, say 70, right?
Yeah.
And you try to design for a heating system where it's 70 on this side of the wall and 0 on that side of the wall. On this side, we'll be doing calculations from 70 on this side to 50 over here.
Yeah.
So there's a lot less heat transfer between 70 and 50 than there is obviously between
For
70
heating
and
and
0.
cooling.
Yes.
Benefits both
Yep,
ways.
yep. So if we can bury it into the hill a little bit, it's good. It helps us with our green points for LEED.
And with respect to the glass that's being installed is super insulated.
That's right.
And the way the heat will run is such that the heating tubes, can you explain how the heating tubes
Sure.
work with respect to being
Basi-
right next to the glass?
Basically, what will happen is we will have a heating element that runs across the face of that building, right across the face of the glass. And that will run hot water through it with a radiator system in it. And that heat will rise right up the face of the glass and create a kind of an induction loop into the building. So it'll roll up across, come back down across the ceiling, and then down on the other side of the room and create a little loop that helps circulate the air as well. But what that does is it makes the glass, doesn't make the glass warm. What it does is it takes away that chill, that kind of radiation chill that comes through the glass. Even though the glass is insulated, it can radiate cold just like a wall can. That feels cool to my hand right now. So when you sit next to that for an hour reading a book, you can kind of feel it on your shoulder a little bit. And that happens on walls, happens a little quicker on glass. And so by putting the heating elements in the floor there, the heat kind of rises up next to the, and keeps that from happening. So it's not any extra heat, it's just the amount of heat that you need, but we've located it over near the wall so that it makes it comfortable. You'll be able to sit in these soft chairs right up against the glass and read a magazine or whatever, and you'll be comfortable.
One of the areas of the current library that I use is the Carrolls downstairs.
Mhm.
What sort of study or arrangements, are there quiet study arrangements besides the 4 rooms?
We do have some carrels. There are computer carrels and then other carrels that we have inside the building. Carrels themselves with the kind of shields around on 3 sides, we don't use those as much anymore in libraries, although we do sometimes. It depends
They're
on,
handy if you're a researcher.
it gets you a little place that you can kind of,
Well, you got a shelf to put stuff and you
Yes.
can kind of, oh yeah, and then the
Yeah.
plugs, and these have got plugs and everything, and you can plug in your computer.
yeah.
It's
So we will have stations,
Primo.
we will have stations like that but the kind of solid chunky thing that's made out of wood with the sides on it and everything, it may not be that exact type.
It's just that it kind of shuts people off so that, you can kind of ignore all of what's going on around you.
Yeah, they have some interesting new furniture now that's like a little mini office.
Cool.
Actually have some really funny stuff where it's just like a sphere that you put your head in.
I've had some questions about the cafe area. Can you go into that a little more?
The cafe area in this building is actually, the idea is with the cafe is that Sam's not going around asking if you want to warm up, right? The idea of a cafe is, I don't think anybody's, I mean, you certainly could, but I don't think the idea is to sell coffee inside the building. Typically, when we're talking about a cafe area, it's a feeling of the space. So when you first come into the building, my guess is that there probably will be some kind of hard surface on the floor, because if you put carpet right up to the front door, it just gets worn out in the wintertime. So there'll probably be some kind of hard surface so it could take a beating and you don't have to rip the carpet up every 5 years. And then we'll probably have some cafe-style tables and chairs in this space. And then actually, if you go down these stairs, down in that lower lobby, it kind of continues down in there, where you could, so someplace you could sit, you could put your laptop up, you could chat with somebody, you could have a cup of coffee or something to eat if you brought it in, or if Sam was selling it inside the building, although I doubt it. So if you come in and you were going to spend the afternoon here with your kids, and you weren't comfortable opening up snacks in the children's department, you could bring your kids out to the cafe area downstairs, right? Sit on one of these tables and look out the window to the patio, have a snack. You can take advantage of the toilets right here to kind of clean up. And there's probably a hard surface on this floor as well, again, to prevent damage. And that space is really just kind of a casual space where you can chat, you can stay away from the quieter parts of the library, you can kind of catch up with your friends. I mean, one of the things that the library is becoming is that third place. It's not work, it's not home, it's a place where people go. We're trying to build a sense of community, modern renaissance.
A place for everyone.
a place for everybody, that's right.
Quick question, does the staff room have a door that closes?
The staff room,
Linda's on staff, so she wants to know, can she just take a break? and close the
Well, no,
door?
I want to know if somebody can get in there.
the staff room actually is behind 2 doors, right? So
Okay.
I don't know if we're going to have keys or if we're going to have fobs in here. We're not at that point yet. That's design development. But you either wave a key fob or you use a key. You open this door, and then you get into this area. Your lockers are in here. There's some storage spaces. And then there's another door. The staff room is there. And then there's a staff toilet. So this is all back of house. So the public won't be back here. So you'll be anywhere in this zone that you want to be, you'll be behind a locked door.
Right, and even intuitively, it seems like there's that hallway that ends in a closed door, right? Otherwise, you're going toward the cafe or to the children's area. It doesn't, it's not
Right.
like there are lots of other options.
When you
that
come out of the
way.
elevator, when you come out of the elevator, you'll have these risers in front of you. There may be some people sitting there, and there'll be a railing.
Yeah.
There'll be natural light coming down. I don't know that you're really going to feel like you're in the basement, but when you come out of that elevator, it's going to be pretty clear that you don't want to take a left. There's nothing there, right? The light and the children's apartment, everything's just going to draw you over to the right. You won't have people pulling on that door.
And that's not a really long hallway either. I mean, it's open, but it doesn't look like it's more than 15, 18 feet long.
What's that, here?
Well, from the middle of this elevator door to the corner into the cafe. Yeah, from there to the end.
Here, from here to there?
Oh, no, right to the corner of the building. Right to the next wall, the end of the next
Here?
wall. No, going up. Yeah, right to there.
Ah.
That doesn't look very far. That's a
No,
hallway.
that's not very far.
No.
And I don't think it's going to feel like a hallway because the stairs are coming down and they're open on the side, right? So it's going to be sloping
Right.
down. When you come out, it's going to be sloping down next to you. You'll be able to see right up over that. You'll be able to see the people.
So it opens right up.
Yeah, I think when you come out, you're going to feel like you're stepping into the lobby, and there's just going to be a stair coming by. I mean, that stair may be open underneath. I don't know. I haven't designed it yet.
That's where we're going to put Harry Potter.
Yeah, right. Not covered under the stairs.
Under the stairs, right? Is that where you live? Okay, thought I made a literary reference there.
Yeah, you
People
did.
looked at me like, "Oh, I don't know about that."
Perfect drive. They're covered under the stairs.
You have conference rooms and everything, right? Does the cost take into estimate the latest equipment, like audio conferencing and video conferencing?
Yep. All those things are included in each of those rooms, and they're included in the cost estimate. Even though we haven't designed them, we talked to our cost estimator and our engineers about what it's going to take to put that in there, and so that assumes that each of those spaces will be wired for all of that.
Yeah, we want it totally wired, the whole library.
Yeah, we opened the South Hadley Library. Did you go visit the South Hadley Library?
I had no idea. Brother.
They've got one large conference room like this that's wired for a flat screen TV, and it's all wired up, and all they need to do is buy a flat screen and plug it in, and they haven't done it. It's like $500. This is the only thing left that they have to do, and they haven't bought one yet. So, don't forget your flat screen,
Yeah, I'm sure we can do that.
because the room is so capable, but without a screen, it's not.
Right.
Are there any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much, Phil.
You bet.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Phil.
everybody, for coming.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming.
How's Catherine?